Hello everyone, it's lovely to be here in Tipperary. I hope you're not getting too tired at this stage of the day. I suppose at this stage the key messages and themes of the afternoon are beginning to become really clear and rise to the surface. I'm going to be repeating some of them in my own presentation, so I hope that won't bore you, but will give you a different angle or a different take on it. And my own purpose here really is to talk to you and propose some creative ideas as to how you can promote your business, increase footfall, and boost your sales. I myself come from my family are steeped in business. I'm the black sheep. I went into the non-profit sector, and my work and my professional life has been built in the arts and cultural sector. And what I'm hoping to share with you today are, I suppose, 5 core ideas around how retail and creativity can be married. So in my own work, I work more as a producer, as a curator, as a programmer, but selling is in my blood. And as all of you know only too well, retail is all about sales. It's critical and vital to you achieving your business objectives. It's vital for you to maximize your profits. But as all of the speakers have said, the space is becoming much more crowded and highly, highly competitive. So in that context, it's very challenging for businesses to work out how do you get consumers to choose you over the others. And what I want to do is focus on 5 creative ideas that will hopefully inspire you to think differently about what you have and how you use it. But for me, I had to start from first principles. So as I say, I don't work in the retail space. So I had to think, okay, what's retail all about? I had to reframe in my own mind and set up a context in order to get these creative ideas from first principles, really. And I started with the whole notion of selling. As a teenager and as a young student, I worked every summer in my mum and my dad's shop. And that's going back to the 80s. My sister now runs the family business. And I thought I would just start by looking at, on the left-hand side, what you have there are, I suppose, traditional thinking around sales. So it's very much about product, about place, about promotion, about price, to what sales is about and how it's understood, and how businesses sell, and how customers are motivated to buy in the current time. So now it's all about innovation, it's about imagination, it's about presentation, service, environment, emotion, and seduction. So now it's all about experience. How do you create experiences? How do you connect to a consumer at an emotional level, etc., etc.? So that begs the question, how do you empower and enable your customers? So thinking about your own shop, thinking about your own business, who does it enable? How does it enable them? How easily, how engagingly, how memorably, with what identity, what value, and does it do it with fun? It's always about what the customers want, and what customers want ultimately is to be recognized, obviously, but they really want to be remembered and to be valued. And as has been said by so many of the previous speakers, in retail, it's all about people. It's all about one-to-one. It's all about how you engage. So the golden rule is people matter. And, you know, there's nothing that is going to, I suppose, deflate an excited customer as much as staff who are bored, who are disengaged and disconnected from the task in hand. And in thinking about your business is not just about you. Everybody who interacts with that business, whether it's you as the proprietor, whether it's your family, whether it's your loyal customers, whether it's people walking up and down the street, everybody is a potential ambassador for your business. And be consistent, because consistency builds trust, and trust builds customer loyalty. So just to summarize very quickly then, it's all now about adding value. This is my understanding. It's all about adding value to your business. And how do you do that? At this stage, it's no longer about price. Price is obviously important, but it isn't the starting point. And value, and how you add value to your business must always be the end point. And I suppose some of the ways that you can do that are through really good design, paying attention to the quality of your products, paying attention to the level of service that your staff and you and your business offer, having confidence in your people and in the products you sell, doing it and paying attention to the environment that people are in. What's your identity as a business? What value and what is it in terms of price? So we're going to move into 5 ideas that will hopefully now help you to think differently about what you have and how you use it. And there's nothing new in any of these. You'll have heard them time and time again. Hopefully what will be new for some of you is a deeper understanding about how you can do it yourselves, irrespective of how small or how large your business is. Conor spoke in his presentation about, how he was not happy with lobby groups looking for incentives for businesses, maybe to engage with e-commerce or to go online. And he spoke about that critical 22%. And I worked for many, many years in Sligo. And one of the projects I worked on, it was an EU programme, and the purpose of the project was to support businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, in retail and in production, on the production side, to how to grow their business into new markets, how to innovate. And I would have found that many of the businesses who benefited and applied to that programme were quite intimidated, hugely intimidated by new technology. I can say that my own sister, who's younger than me, was very intimidated by new technology, and it was with the support of the local enterprise office and the online voucher that she got to go online, and I'll talk about her in a second. So we're going to look at how creative partnerships can help you to tell your stories, and that's really the first idea that I want to talk to you about. And I suppose if there's a flagship in the room today for telling your story brilliantly and excellently, it's Rachel Doyle and the Arboretum. So in terms of how do you add value, just going back to what is it that motivates customers to buy, that whole notion of creating an experience, that whole notion of connecting emotionally. It's all very well talking about these things abstractly, but what I often find is businesses don't have the first idea of, well, how do you go about actually doing something about that? And one way that you can do it absolutely is by telling your story. And the reason stories are important is storytelling is the best way to create chemistry with people. Stories that resonate with people inspire them to take action. You can incorporate storytelling into your business in many ways, and we'll go into that in a second. And listening is just as important as telling. You can understand people's motives and find a sweet spot that meets your business needs and theirs. So coming to yourselves, and how can you do that? Well, the first thing is to look at your resources. Some of you may be in a business that has been handed down from generation to generation. Some of you may be in premises. If we go back to that first slide, the beautiful heritage architectural retail spaces that exist here in County Tipperary. I know that was one of the first things that struck me coming from the northwest and from Donegal, is the beautiful retail spaces architecturally that exist here in the county. So that's a real resource and a real strength that you can play to. What is the history of your building? All of you are in the business of selling products and services and goods, irrespective of what they are. So there are stories that you can tell around that. So I suppose the message is that irrespective of the source, there are many, many areas that you can draw on to tell a good story about you and about your business. And often people think, okay, well, how do I communicate that story? And you've heard mentioned today by many people talking about brand. And Rachel spoke very eloquently about her brand identity and how the business developed that. And a brand identity is critical to a business telling its story well. And the reason it's critical is because a brand is like a mark. It's like a symbol or an emblem of a business. So if you think about something like water, water is a basic resource, but it's vital for survival and for all of us to thrive. But at the end of the day, water is water. So when you think about how do companies like Tipperary or Ballygowan or Evian, how do they differentiate themselves from one another? They do it through their brand. And sometimes people think reductively about brands and they think, okay, it's just a visual identity, it's just a logo. Good branding will do much, much more than give you a logo or a visual identity. Good branding has a practical dimension and it has an emotional dimension. So if we apply that to, we'll say, selling shoes, the practical thing might be, okay, these shoes are lovely, they're very lightweight. The emotional is, I feel really powerful wearing these shoes. If you think about bigger brands like Nivea, practically it's a cream, it's a skin cream. Emotionally, it's about feeling good in your skin. If you think about something like a brand like Budweiser, practically it's just a beer, it's a drink. Emotionally, it's about making friends and connecting. So good branding and good storytelling are critical to getting you and your message visible and out there. And I just want to draw your attention. I mentioned my work in Sligo in the Northwest and that EU programme. And one of the businesses that took part in that programme was a small family-run bookshop called Lieber on the main street in Sligo. And at the time they came to the programme, the business was being passed from one generation to the next. The parents were passing it to their son and his wife, who had been running a small music section upstairs. They had a really good physical footprint on O'Connell Street, the main street. They were very worried about the fact that just literally about 5 doors up from them, Eason's had opened a store. So they were very worried about that competition. They had very distinctive aspects to their own business, but they had absolutely, so for example, they had a huge knowledge of Irish literature. They had a very specialist knowledge of Yeats. They were an independent retailer that had been in existence in the town for many years. So they had no idea how do we translate these things into a good story or a good brand. And I don't want to labour now and get into the detail of how they did that, albeit to say, if you go to www.lieber.ie, you'll see how they did it. So what they did was, and how the programme helped them was, it partnered them with a creative, Judo Design, and together they worked out the layout of the store, they worked out the brand identity and core message. And I don't live in Sligo anymore, but I've visited many times, and I can tell you that shop has won numerous business awards. It is absolutely thriving. It has won huge customer loyalty, and that's all in the space of less than 5 years. The other story I want to tell you about is my own sister, who runs a craft and design shop in northwest Donegal. I mentioned that with the help of the local enterprise office, she went for the online voucher. My sister would have been somebody who was incredibly intimidated by technology. She went for it, as Conor said, just to make sure that she was still relevant. It wasn't something she relished. She didn't understand it. But with the help of the programme, she now posts regularly. She has a fantastic Facebook page. She did it for the same reasons as Lieber. She wanted to grow the customer base. She wanted to become more visible as a business. She wanted her offer to become more visible. They did it with the development of a brand identity, Lieber, and an online presence and e-commerce and all of that. My sister did it with social media and very effective use of Facebook. Again, if you go on to McAuliffe's Facebook page, you can see just how she's telling the stories, but it's been very successful for her. Again, today there's been several mention of offering an experience, and it's okay, how do you do that? How do you find a new audience? How do you go about changing perceptions? Several people, every speaker has mentioned putting your staff at the heart of it. How do you inform and entertain your public? Sorry, there's a slide missing there. And have fun at the same time. This image and slide relates to a pub, a small pub in Sligo called Shoot the Crows. And if you look here up in the top left-hand corner, you can see it's a tiny, tiny, tiny building. And yet that tiny building, that tiny pub on the corner of one of the side streets in Sligo has become the go-to place if you want to experience contemporary culture in Sligo. The music, the crack. And one of the ways they've done it is by partnering with a creative. So the pub owner collaborates with a visual artist who every quarter paints. The artist will come up with a concept for that small window and paint it. And the visual that you're looking at here on the slide are 25 years of different windows that have made that business so visible, that have really accentuated their brand, their story, their identity, and that pub is always packed. Other ways to promote live events and thinking are to build partnerships and to think big. And in terms of, where do you start with all this event and experience business? Just start with what you know best. Start with the products and goods that you sell. All of those products and goods have a producer or a designer. So you could ask the company to host a creative experience in store, which will inform and entertain. It may draw a new and a different audience. It'll give your staff a lift because it's different. So if we're thinking, say, like a bookshop, live events, obviously readings. If we think about a makeup shop, live events, obviously, like nail painting, makeup, events, themed events for mothers and their daughters, or for men. There's lots of different, avenues that you can explore. You can do this if you don't feel comfortable about doing this yourself. You can find a creative partner who'll only be too happy to do it with you. And I can tell you, having done some work in Tipperary in the past in the area of the arts, Tipperary is full of really experienced, exceptional artists and creatives. And you might think, well, how do we find them, or how do we get to know who they are? Simply ask the Chamber of Commerce to connect with the Arts Office and host an information evening. And the Arts Office can talk to you about different festivals that are on. Tipperary is full of festivals. Every village, town, land and town has a festival practically in Tipperary. And that's something that you as businesses can tap into. So if we'll say one of them, for example, the Drumineer Literary Festival. In the village of Drumineer, if you have a business, could you host a reading in your premises during that festival? Often event organisers are looking for off-site, different locations. If you can't host a reading, can you partner with the festival and offer them your window space and invite a local artist to do something really creative around books? So in that way, you're celebrating the festival and the community links, and you're changing the perception of your business. So there's loads of, similarly, Culture Night happens in lots of towns and villages. Again, there's a programme around Culture Night. If you have an idea, go to the Arts Office or go to the County Council and see, can you get a creative partner to work with you on an idea for your shop window or whatever, or in store if it's for an event. Equally, I mentioned the fabulous retail heritage you have here in Tipperary. There's a new programme now called Creative Ireland, which is all about interdisciplinary, and every year the Heritage Council celebrate National Heritage Week. Could you, with the Chamber of Commerce and Creative Ireland, the local authorities, do something that focuses on retail architecture? In Dublin they have this open house for really interesting architecture. In Leitrim they have one called Inspirational Homes, focused on green architecture and green processes in building. Those are the kinds of ways that you can simply get started and think big. It's really important. So we've been talking about your story, we've been talking about inside the store, but outside the store and what's happening on the pavement is equally as important as what's happening inside. So it's really important to look at your business from the outside and see it with a customer's eye. Is there enough to invite people in? Are the products you sell, can you offer samples outside that are going to attract a different audience? So just to think about how you assess the business from the outside is as important. Can you use placards on the pavement to make it more visible, to get people to look at the windows, and so on. So just think about it from the outside and think about how are you inviting people and drawing people into your shop. Stimulate the senses. This is obvious. Think about your shop visually. Think about it from the sense of what are people hearing when they come into the shop? What kind of an atmosphere is that creating? What are they smelling? Can they touch things? What can they touch? How interactive is it? And, obvious atmospherics in terms of retail are windows, the customer journey, which David spoke about, lighting, music, smell, digital tools, very important now, and graphics. These are just some of the things you can use to create atmospherics. And these don't have to be, so that's a very obviously sophisticated image of a very contemporary atmospheric interior in retail. But you can create atmosphere very, very cost effectively and simply as well by collaborating with artists and creatives who create all the time. Their business is to create environments and spaces. So they do that really, really well. Your window, Mother's Day is coming up on Sunday. So your front window is a key tool you have. One window, one message, and it should change often. Change it seasonally. Don't have the same window in for months on end. Be creative with your windows. If you don't feel comfortable doing it yourself, or you don't feel you have the skills, there are lots of professionals who can help you, be they artists, be they designers, be they merchandisers. This is just a really simple way that you can draw attention to your business. And if we take just a really topical one, this is writing and drawing on a window. Do you see the one on the far right there, the Let It Snow? It's just a restaurant, and they've just painted some white dots on the window and written, Let It Snow. And immediately it draws you in. Equally, just above it, the new cafe, see how they're using the little ledge to put fresh flowers. Again, it's going to catch people's eye. They're using outside to draw people in. In the middle one, the contemporary display. It's a very small window space, but they're using it to maximum effect. And all they've done is placed one piece of clothing, placed the wings, and drawn a heart around it. It's very, very simple, very, very low cost. In this one, for the cafe, they've just drawn literally a couple of jugs and a shelf with a few jugs and a few bits and pieces on it. And the other one above it, hello, all of them inviting you in, all really simple, low cost. The customer journey, David spoke about this, the customer journey in the context of creating experiences and connections and emotional attachments, it should be a path to discovery. It should be highlighting that you have your clear lines, you're ready for business, you have engaging hotspots. And again, this is something that you can get help with through merchandising or through working with a creative partner. How do you create these hotspots? They're like character areas in your shop that can showcase new products, that can highlight what you have in store, whatever you want to draw attention to. Make sure that the spaces are well maintained. And obviously, you know, for older customers or for customers who have mobility issues, basic things like a chair help. Lighting is a key atmospheric in retail. It's very obvious. So this shop, the chocolate shop, have taken a very simple corner building and transformed it literally with colour and light. In the upper right-hand corner, it's a food area, so the lighting is more functional, but still very effective. And in the bistro area, the lighting is defining the whole seated area and drawing people's attention to that. Graphics, again, this was mentioned in a number of the presentations earlier on. Graphics are a great way to draw attention to new products, to new lines, to propose ideas. Is it time for a new look? Out with the old, in with the new. The way they've used the stairs to great effect with the graphics and the messaging. So these are just very simple ideas that you can use. Pre-mark, digital tools, so video screens, being used here by Primark to draw attention to customers, and on the other side, digital tools being used in the roof to kind of frame the products that are underneath it. And going back to that Sligo project, I'm sure many of you will have heard of Voya. And Voya are essentially a beauty company in the northwest, but their products made from seaweed. They were the first to innovate in terms of using organic seaweed in beauty products. Their products are sold all over the world. Their creative challenge when they came into the programme that I worked on, where I met them, was they sell their products in international markets, often in spas that are in really, really remote, hard to reach areas. and in places where English is not the first language. So they needed a way to communicate visually the quality of their product, the richness to be, and the benefits to be gained from using their products. And what they did was they partnered up with a young filmmaker who used digital filmmaking to give them a fabulous video like the one Rachel showed at the end to do just that. Having gone through all of those stages and steps and implemented them, the retail safari, you're basically just saying you're ready for business, you have your greetings sorted with your staff, everything is groomed, there's good atmosphere, there's good signage. You walk around the store yourself and you see and feel and hear with a customer's perspective. That's very basic, but it's really important for you to get insights into what people feel and think and say about your business. And you can pick those up all the time and reframe and rethink like a customer. So the corporate view, very much about products, about interruption, function, sameness, statements, sales push, marketing. The consumer view, on the other hand, is all about people. It's all about engaging and participating, connecting emotionally, surprises, discovery, exploration, stories. It's personal. It's about a consumer pull and it's about movement. The rules of engagement, there are no allowances, only competition. Good enough is not good enough. Winning is about coming first. The best value beats the best price. The future belongs to the experience makers. And finally, customers are always the focus in retail. And whatever people say about online and the trends and the change, people are always going to look for human, one-to-one interactions. They are always going to prioritise those. So bricks and mortar stores are never going to go out of fashion anytime soon. Innovation is the enabler. And to get you started, get a creative partner. Get somebody to work with you. And profit will be your reward. Thank you very much.